Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, which is Nedarim Daf Lamed Hey. We begin right on top of the Amud and right in the middle of a question. Here comes the Shiloh. Reuven tells Shimon, look, this loaf which I own, kikri, my loaf of bread, alecha, is usher to you by way of a neder. Question is like this. While that loaf is still in Reuven's possession, of course it's usher to Shimon. On the other hand, if Reuven gives it away to somebody else, say his name is Levi. Levi is the current owner of this kikar. So now Reuven's control over this loaf of bread has terminated. His neder has expired because the neder was specific to kikri, my loaf. Well, now it's Levi's loaf. So while it's in Levi's possession, Shimon can have anah. But what if Reuven decides to take this loaf of bread and give it directly to Shimon as a present? B'matana. Shall we say Shimon can take it? Why? It is no longer Reuven's when it's in Shimon's possession. And that's Rav Chia bar Abin's shita. Rava disagrees. The fact is it went directly from Reuven, the madir, to Shimon, the mudar, on the receiving end of the neder. And since it was kikri, it had a status of his loaf of bread until now, you can't just take it and have anah from it. Esvei. So he asked a kasha on Rava. The Brisa says, Amar lo hashileni paroscha. Shimon approaches Reuven, could I please borrow your cow? Amar lo. Reuven says, absolutely not. Koinam para shani konei. This para which I own is koinam, like a carbon asr to you, lacha. And he adds, to reinforce his claim, like he has nothing else, this is his only cow, nichasai alecha, in fact, all my properties and my belongings become asr to you. With a neder, if im yesh li para, if I have any other cow, elazu, aside from this, it's my only cow, I can't lend it, I can't afford it. Next example. Hashileni kardumcha. Shimon turns to Reuven, could you please lend me your axe? Amar lo. Reuven says, I can't, sorry. Koinam kardum sheyesh li shani konei. This kardum which I own is asa to you as a neder. Nichasai alecha, in fact, all my belongings should be asa to you. He's just using it to reinforce his claim as though he has nothing else. This is his only sole remaining axe which he can't afford to lend. Im yesh li kardum elazef, and any other axe aside from this, then all my nechasan should be asa to you. Bottom line is, it's my only axe. It's my only cow. I can't spare it. And it turns out that he was just selling a story. Turns out that he has another ox, another cow, another axe. Does that activate the neder? For sure. B'chayav asr. So the axe and the cow would be asr to Shimon if it is still during Reuven's lifetime, because he said, my cow, my axe, during my lifetime. Mace, but after Reuven's death, or Reuven gave that axe to Shimon, gave the cow to Shimon, it is no longer Reuven's. Shimon is the new owner. Hareza mutar, Shimon can partake, can use that item. That's a kasha on Rava. We see clearly that when a neder is expressed in this fashion, my thing, my kikar, my cow, it's only usher while it's in your possession. Once you give it to the mudar, now it's his. He can have anah from it. Amar achbed Rav Ika, no. Typically it's asr. If it would come directly from the madir to the mudar. Here we're speaking shenitna lo yadei achar. We're speaking that the item here was given to Shimon the mudar by a third party, because Reuven had given it to somebody else. And then once that happens, we explained before, once that happens, the neder expires. And now that other person can share it with Shimon. He's no longer bound by this neder. And the rationale behind it, the Ran explained yesterday, was because if you say this item is usher to you, period, then it's for all time. Regardless of who the owner is of whose possession this item is. But if he specifies my item, kikri, then it's limited to while I have possession, or perhaps even just giving it to you directly would be a problem. But if I give it to somebody else, it loses that status. It loses that definition. It's no longer mine. It sort of got, cleansed from it. That its history its records got, deleted. It no longer relates back to me, which allows Shimon to now have hana from that item, and that's what happened here. So it's not a kasha on Rabbi. Even Rabbi agrees that this case would be different. If we pay close attention to the wording in this brisa, you will see that in fact we're speaking about this type of case. The brisa says shenitnalei. It was given to Shimon. Rather than Reuben giving it directly to Shimon, it ended up in a roundabout way by Shimon, via Levi, who first took possession of this item. But perhaps if it would have been given directly from Reuben to Shimon, the muder would be also. Here comes another shaila. Ba'amine Rava mirav Nachman. So here's a shaila to Rav Nachman. Yesh me'ila b'koinamis. Oiloi. As we know, when an item belongs to the Beis HaMikdash, and one deviates, one diverts, he misuses that item for personal use. He has committed me'ila. If he does it with mezit, there's malchus, b'shoigik, he brings a carbon, etc. What if something was rendered asur through a neder? A neder which perhaps related to carbon. Lashon koinam is lashon carbon, right? So it becomes asur. To what extent is it asur? Is it comparable to something which is hegdish, to a real carbon? In which case, if a person inappropriately uses this item, violates the neder, he has committed me'ila, he has to bring a carbon, shall we say that it's compared to hegdish to that extent or not? Yesh me'ila b'koinamos, oy loy. Amar lei Rav Nachman responds. Tanisua, we have a Mishnah, which we just learned by Ashavas Haveda. Although the Madir can actually return the lost item to the Mudar, but be careful. Mokim shenoiten aleh sachar. If in this place they get paid for the job, and you don't want to take payment, it ends up back by the Bal Aved who can't keep it because he's a Mudar Hano. What did we learn? Tipol Hano lehegdish. He forwards the funds to the Hegdish fund. Why Hegdish? Why not, your local, throw into the Yam HaMelach. Just get rid of it. Why Hegdish? Le Meimra. This indicates to us. Ki Hegdish. Something which is asr by way of neder draws its energy, so to speak, from Hegdish. Ma Hegdish yesh ba me'ila, just like me'ila applies to Hegdish. Af koinamos yesh ba me'ila likewise. Something which is asr by way of koinam is comparable to Hegdish. And if one actually violates the neder and partakes in that item, he has committed me'ila. And likewise, this money, which is asr, goes to hektish, like any other hektish. Kid tanoi, but actually it's machlekes tanoim, whether or not there is me'ila by koinamis. Koinam kikarzu. Hektish. So he says that this a loaf of bread should be asr, like hektish should be asr through a neder. V'achla, and he went and he ate it. Beinu ubein chaveroi ma'al. Whether this fellow who made the neder ate it or his friend ate it, they have committed me'ila, because this isser of koinam was universal. It wasn't limited to himself. He made this item asr ben neder. Everybody was obligated to keep that neder. And since it's a universal isser, applicable to everybody equally, it is treated like a regular hegdish item, which can be redeemed for money. But if it's a limited neder, kikarzu alai lehegdish. For me, it's considered asr like hegdish. Va'achla, and he ate it. Humal, he commits mi'ila. Chaveru loimal, but not his friend, because it's not asr on anybody except for himself. And another difference here, since it's only a limited personal isser, it's not treated like a regular hegdish. Lefichach ein la pidyon. You can't redeem it for money. Divrei Meir. So you can't go ahead and make a pidyon and redeem it with money because it doesn't have a regular din hegdish. So if it's a universal Isser Neder applicable to all, there is Me'ilah and there is Pidyon. If it's a personal Neder, there is Me'ilah for him, but no Pidyon. They say, Benkach or Benkach, whether it's all-encompassing or personal, Loi Mal, there's no Me'ilah. Upon eating this item, Lefish Ein Me'ilah B'Keinomis, Me'ilah and Keinomis don't go together. Clearly, it's a Machlekes Tanoim. Ramir says yes, Chachamim say no. Here comes another question. He asked Rav Ashi, what about Kikri Alecha? He says, this loaf of bread of mine is also to you with a neder. V'nosn loy matana. And he went ahead and he gave it to him as a gift, assuming there is me'ilah by kenamis. And we're understanding that when a person accepts a gift, he's actually benefiting from that item. By way of simply accepting that gift. That gives him pleasure and satisfaction. So assuming that having a no from a forbidden item constitutes me'ilah, who has done me'ilah in this case? Right? I said, this kicker of mine is usher to you, and I gave it to you as a gift. Mimal, who has committed me'ilah? Limayel noisen, shall we say the giver has committed me'ilah? Halei asir alei. You can't say that. It's not usher to me. It was usher to you. Okay, that's off. Limal makabel. Next option. Perhaps you had committed me'ilah by accepting the item. Well, he has a way out. Yochad Amar, he can claim, Hatera ba'isi, I was willing to accept a gift if it's mutter for me. But Yisur la ba'isi, I had no inkling that this thing is usher to me. I have no interest in being kind of something which is usher to me. So how could you hold me accountable? Amar Leisa, he responded, this is Rav Ashi, you're right. Both reasonings stand true. The Noisen is innocent and so is the Makabel. Rather, Amar Le Makabel Mal L'Kashayotzi. So the fellow who received this item, although the actual act of accepting is not going to trigger any Isser, because as we explained, he wasn't willing to be Zoicha something which is Asr. But ultimately, when he takes it and he uses it, and he benefits from it, at that point, he has committed an Isser. Mekabel Mal L'Kashayoti, when he uses it, when he spreads it. Well, you'll ask, I didn't know that it was Asr. You know what? Every moyel in Hegdish, every time a person misuses, diverts Hegdish property, who commits Milah, didn't necessarily know about it. So even Milah b'shoigig is guilty. Shekol ha'moitzi, mois Hegdish l'chulin, a person takes Hegdish funds and uses it for his own personal use, thinking that it's his own money, kasavar shalchulinu, what happens? Moyel. He has committed Me'ilah. Avzeh Moyel here as well. Although it was B'Shageg, he's responsible. Continues the Mishnah. So we have Reuven, who is a Madir, and Shimon, the Mudar. Reuven told Shimon, I can't give you anything. You're Asr to partake, Asr to take any anah from me. We learned that he can still return a lost item, pay off his debt. What else can he do for him? V'toirem esrumaisai, umasroisai, l'datai. So Reuven, although he can't benefit Shimon, but he can do mitzvahs, because mitzvahs are mitzvahs. They're spiritual experiences, and Rashi says, the Ran says, mitzvahs lav lahanas nitnu. When I do a mitzvah, even if it benefits you, it's not considered having given you anything. V'toirem esrumasav masrasav l'daitoi. Let's say Shimon has a farm. Reuben can approach the farm with Shimon's consent and separate the Trum and the Maser. It's a mitzvah. Or Makriv Alav, if Reuben is a Kohen, he can actually be Makriv Karbonis on behalf of Shimon, whether it's Kinei Zav and the pair of birds used for a Zav, Kinei Zavah is for the Zavah, the lady, to Kinei Yoldis, the birds for the Isha who gave birth, Chatos v'Hashamayis, these karbonis meant for the Mitzoira, who's called a Mechusar Kapara. In order to complete his, Mitzoira cleansing process, he has to bring this karbonis. So the Kohen, although he's not meant to give the Mitzoira Hano, Mitzoira is a Madir from the Shimon who's a Mudar, still he can bring all these karbonis on his behalf. Umalamde Midrash, he can teach him Midrash, Halachis, V'Agadis. Avaloy Lamdenu Mikra, he can't teach him actual Chumash. The Gemara will explain why, because it's something that they used to get paid for, and if I forego that payment, I'm giving you something for free. Avo Malamedu is Bana, as B'nai of Mikra, but he can still teach his children Chumash, despite the fact that a father is obligated to teach his children, and perhaps even pay tuition on their behalf. Who says he was going to pay tuition? And regardless, you're just, addressing his obligations. You aren't really giving him anything. You're freeing him from his obligation. It's like paying off his debt. It's like Mavriach Ari, which is mutter. Iboilu, here comes the Shaila. A general question which is discussed other places in Shas as well, but here it has a neder ramification, therefore it's brought here as well. Hani Kahani, these Kahanim that are serving the Beis HaMikdash today, Shaluchi de Dan Havu, are they considered our emissaries? Meaning us, Yisraelim. Are we appointing them, so to speak, as shluchim for us? They're doing our job on our behalf. Or shluchim d'shmaya, perhaps they are sort of employed by Hashem, unrelated to us. Now, this isn't merely theoretics. What type of practical ramification could this shaila present? Limud Hana, our Mishnah. Let's say I'm a Yisrael, and the Kohen made a neder not to benefit me. I'm a Mudur Hana from the Kohen. He can't help me. He can't serve me. Can he bring my korban? Well, it depends how you learn. If typically a Kohen is considered my shliach, I can't have a Kohen bring a korban for me. He's working for me. He's my shliach. He's representing me. He's doing my job. It's asur. But but if you consider the Kohen as Hashem's shliach, Hashem's servant, then he can work for me. He's not doing my job. He's doing Hashem's job. How shall we look at this? Toshma, here's a raya. That's not from our Mishnah. Makarov alav, kinezav v'chul. A Kohen can bring karbonis for the Yisrael. I amris, shluchah dedan. Well, if you contend that a Kohen is the owner's shaliach, how can he bring a korban? Kamahanile. He's very much benefiting him by completing his task on his behalf. So that perhaps is a raya that a Kohen is working for Hashem and not representing the owner. Well, according to your way of thinking, you have proven that a Kohen is shluach de Shemaya. He's heaven sent. Shluchah de Rachmana is a lashon that the Gemara Kedushin uses. Hashem's shliach. If that's the case, then why does the Mishnah, limit its list? Why does the Mishnah specify very specific karbanis? Karbanis which are called mechusri kapara karbanis. They're not the conventional, it's not your typical chatos that you bring if you didn't have it. The Mishnah doesn't discuss those. According to you, it's open-ended. Listening makriv al karbanis. The Mishnah should simply state, a Kohen can be makriv any karbanis. Why do we specify only certain karbanis? Oh, that's the key. Ela mechusri kapara shami. Apparently, it's because these karbanis, which are brought to complete a cleansing process, they're not donations, they're not Avera-related karbanis. It's a certain type, a certain class of karbanis called mechusri kapara karbanis. Those are different. Because for those, you don't need to work on behalf of the owner. In fact, you could even bring it without the owner's knowledge. Rabbi Yehuda das. Every hakrova process needs the owner's knowledge and consent. Chutz except for these specific karbonis. Shari other maybe carbon al banav. In fact, if a father can bring this type of carbon for his young children under bar mitzvah, who don't have das, it's not a prerequisite for these karbonis. Shenemar zois teres hazav. We learn from zois teres hazav, bein gadol bein katan. whether the Zav is a Gadol or a Katan, which would basically mean his father brings it on his behalf, it works. So perhaps our contention was wrong. A Kohen is working for us. He's our Shliach, and would not be able to bring a carbon for us if he may not benefit us because of a neder. Rather, the Mishnah is speaking about certain karbanos which don't really relate to the owner. Any stranger can just bring it on our behalf. So certainly in this case, the Kohen is not doing our shlichus. He's not working for us. I mean, ultimately he benefits us, but that's a grama, the Ran says, just a by the way hana, that we benefit from the akravas akarban, but the actual process of akrava is not done as a shlichus, and therefore it's mutter. Asks the Gemara, well, if Zois Teres Hazav teaches you ben Gadol ben Katan, what about another pasuk? According to this, Rabbi Yechan's drasha of Zois Teres Hazav, what about Zois Teres HaYeledis? So this is the carbon which a woman who gave birth will bring. What's the point of Zois Teres? Being Tana, being Doyle, we're speaking about whether she's a Doyle or a Tana. Is that what you're trying to include? That wouldn't work. Because Ketana Basleidi, since one can Ketana give birth, it doesn't work. Vatani Rav Bevi came Rav Nachman. He presented the halacha to Rav Nachman. Sholish Nasham Mishamas B'moich. These three women will use a contraceptive to avoid pregnancy. Ketana, Umuberos Umenika, a young girl, pregnant woman, one who is nursing. The reason is Ketana Shamatis Abra V'Tamas. By the Ketana concerned that perhaps if there's no barrier involved, she might become pregnant and it can bring to her misa. So it's clear in the Gemara that Iktana can never survive Ibor. Ibor is tantamount to misa. So apparently, Zois Teres HaYeledis, which is referring to a woman who gave birth, can be speaking about Iktana. So what then is the pasuk coming to tell us? Answers the Gemara, it's coming for a different purpose. That pasuk is telling you ben pikachas ben shoita, whether the yoledis is mentally stable, or ben shoita she's mentally unstable. Still, she can have a carbon brought on her behalf. For instance, her husband can bring it on her behalf. She can other maybe carbon al shoita. A husband can bring a carbon for his wife, and we see in Rabbi Yehuda, upcoming to Rabbi Yehuda, we'll see soon that, in fact, he learns that every carbon that a wife is chayev, it's really her husband's chayev. And therefore it makes sense that a husband can bring a carbon for his wife. Right? So the Gemara here is telling us that the pasuk is simply referring to a case where the Isha is not bringing her own carbon. She's a g'dayla, but she's not bringing her own carbon for some reason. And her husband will bring it on her behalf, as we find by Rabbi Yehuda. Kediv Rabbi Yehuda Sanya, Rabbi Daimer, Adam may be carbon ashal ishtay. See, Rabbi Yehuda takes it a step further. He holds that every single carbon obligation that a wife has, it's really her husband's obligation. In fact, when there's a carbon which has several levels, when you're wealthier, you bring a more prominent carbon animal, otherwise it's a bird, otherwise a mincha. Who sets the standard? According to whose, financial abilities do we determine the level of the carbon? According to Rabbi Yehuda, the husbands. Adam may be carbon asher al ishtay. If he can afford, if he's capable, he must bring a more expensive carbon, even though his wife doesn't have access to these funds. She's not an usher, but he's an usher. He's obligated because ultimately it's his chiyuv. In fact, the kol karbonis shechayevus. He'll bring all the karbonis that she's supposed to bring. He's chayev. In fact, that's what we see from the lashon of the document. Which document? After divorce, she'll give him a receipt for the ksuba payat, and she'll add shekach koisev lo, because the Ivan is geras shekach koisev lo. Because we look at the text of the receipt that she gives him, and it says v'achrayis isli. This leich alai, I'm releasing you from all your obligations that you have for me, that you have towards me. Anything including the chiyuv of karbanis mikadmas tana, up until now. So we see from this lashon that a husband has to look after his wife's korbanos, and likewise, that's the purpose of this pasuk. This Torah say, "Ledus," even a shaita will have a carbon brought for her perhaps by her husband. Okay, so bottom line, we learned about a fellow who applied an isser to his belongings, to his chayfetz, kikri, parasi, or the kardom that I have, and as long as it's by me, it's usher to you. If I give it to somebody else, from that point forward, it's mutter to you. If I give it to you directly, we have a machlekes. Next question. If something's usher by way of a neder, if a person partakes in that item, be isser, has he committed me'ilah? Machlekes tanaim. Next question. This item is usher to you, and I give it to you. Who's responsible? Not me, not you. The answer is, when you take it and use it, even if it's b'shogeg, then, just like by real hegdish, me'ilah b'shogeg brings about a chiyuv carbon, or so here as well, assuming there's me'ilah by Nedarim, the same thing happens. A mother can be Torah the truma the master of a mudar. He can teach him Torah, provided it doesn't save many money. He can teach his kids Torah. Regarding karbonis, well, the Mishnah says you can bring the kini zavim and zaves on his behalf. The Gemara wasn't sure whether this is an indication that a kohen is really working for Hashem, or perhaps even if there's a personal element of shlichus on behalf of the owner as well, but perhaps here it's different. Because when it comes to mechusar kapara, these karbanos don't require shlichus. And the kohen is free to be makar of them on his behalf. All the best to you, and may Hashem give us much ziyata d'shmaya.